Why did the Nazis push the idea of blonde hair, blue eyes, while Hitler had neither? Hitler was blue-eyed. Just found this out. The idea was that being an Aryan was comprised of a number of virtues and physical attributes. You didn't need them all to be part of the category. It was more of a way to characterize the virtues of an ethnic group than a blue-eyed blondes only club. The Aryan myth comes from before Hitler's time. It's a 19th century thing. Hitler actually had blue eyes. So, basically, the Nazis believed that Aryans were one of the master races, specifically the mister of most of the European continent, and needed something to tie ethnic Germans to Aryans in order to claim the concept of being the mister. Blonde hair and blue eyes are traits more common in people from Germanic lines, including Scandinavian ones, than in most other European lineages, and exceptionally more common than in Eastern African lineages. The idea wasn't that blonde-haired and/or blue-eyed people were superior, but the possibility that you had a blonde, blue-eyed ancestor, or could theoretically produce a child with those features, made you superior. Of course, it was just racism with extra steps. That wasn't how they broke things up. They broke up Europe into northern, southern and eastern. There are lots of blonde, blue-eyed Russian and Polish people, but Nazi race theorists still defined Slavic people to be an inferior subrace of white people. The Nazis pushed the idea that mixing with inferior races had polluted the bloodlines of the German people. The Nazis used the image of perfect, Nordic people as what Germans would look like without all that polluted blood. Basically, the Nazis were conspiracy theorists, so what they said doesn't make sense and can contradict other things about them without them worrying too much about it. Fascism isn't supposed to make sense. Fascism is like a pyramid. At the top, you have the perfect ideal, Hans McNazi, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tall, athletic white man. At the bottom, you have the main enemy. For the Nazis, this meant Jews, with communists nestled similarly low. The bottom half of the pyramid is pretty much anyone outside the target audience. These are the ugly, horrible people that need to be exterminated, but not as urgently as the ultra-evil Jewish communists. Then, you have a small band of acceptable allies who are still considered unworthy. For the Nazis, this meant Mediterraneans. For modern fascists, this usually means Slavs or those of the wrong religion. Then, at the top, it stops being about extermination and starts being about power. This is where women usually go, alongside anyone who is good, instead of perfect. Hitler fell into this section. He saw himself not as the perfect human being, but as a better one than those beneath him. This model doesn't change if the extermination is successful. By the way, fascism can't survive without an enemy. In a world without Jews, the Nazis would have hated communists, then Slavs, then non-Europeans, then Mediterraneans, then the French, the British, black-haired Germans, brown-haired Germans, on and on. When the last two fascists kill the last Untermensch, one of them will declare the other Untermensch. When the last man on earth is a Nazi, he'll cut off his least Aryan hand. Quite frankly, I'm not really questioning the logic of people who thought it was okay to commit genocide by rounding people up and killing them like pigs on a feedlot minus the food. The Nazis idealized Aryans as blonde, blue-eyed, athletic, and tall, and Nazi propaganda posters, photographs, and films showed people who fit this ideal. However, many people whom the Nazis considered to be Aryan Germans did not look like this. The physical ideal of these racial theorists was typically the tall, fair-haired, and light-eyed Nordic individual, but such theorists accepted the fact that a considerable variety of hair and eye color existed within the racial categories they recognized. Blonde hair and blue eyes were preferred in the Lebensborn program, and family lineage had to be traced back at least 3 generations. Hitler believed that Aryan superiority was being threatened particularly by the Jews, and therefore, a hierarchy of races was created with the Aryans at the top and with Jews, Gypsies, and black people at the bottom. Laws for thee, not for me. The short answer is they had a lot of other qualifiers and technicalities. Like the ever-shifting number of non-Jewish generations you had to be non-Jewish legally. Even though it's a religion not an ethnicity, it's just easier to explain as blonde hair, blue eyes. What if red hair, blue eyes? Because they didn't, plus Hitler was blue-eyed. They wanted to institute or create the perfect world race. It wasn't necessarily that the leaders that began the Nazi movement or ideals were exactly perfect. Now, to be a Nazi you did have to fit within the race laws and be German, etc. But the perfect master race was what was to be created, not what they were in the 30s or early 40s. Hitler had blue eyes. Nazis. Hitler isn't blonde, but come on, nobody's perfect. Maybe the carpet didn't match the drapes? In a nutshell, a mad demagogue who sells ideas crazy enough for his base to be swallowed whole without questioning them has already brainwashed them beyond their cognitive capabilities. And anyone who questions them is anathema. Us versus them, typical cliché. Anyway, it's just a thought. I don't know if it's true, but I have heard that even Hitler admitted he wouldn't make the cut in the world he envisioned.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.